Hey, it's Nicole, and today's guest is Fizzah Raza. She is a Nashville-based luxury portrait and branding photographer. She's been doing this for over a decade, folks, and let me tell you, her magazine style just brings out this modern feel that you can't experience with just any photographer. You all know those awkward shots. Fizzah is about pulling you away from that bad experience you may have had and giving you flattering poses and lighting you're going to adore and probably run back to again. I'm so excited to introduce you to her because she is not just a client, she is a friend, and I love chatting with her, and there's usually a lot of laughs, and I can't wait to introduce her to Matt. So let's get into it. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you. Fizzah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Hello.
Hi, Matt.
We want to start off the show the way we do with every single guest. Tell me, how would you finish this sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
You wake up in the middle of the night with an idea and you have to write it down.
I feel like there's a story there. When is the last time you had to write it down?
Oh gosh, it happens often. Usually I have a hard time falling asleep. So I do like a brain dump onto my notepad next to my bed. But I don't know the last time it happened. Maybe last week. I was brainstorming like my next campaign and I was trying to figure out the names and it wasn't coming. And of course, when your brain's relaxed, that's when it serves it out. I just keep it next to my bedside because I found that, you have that moment where you tell yourself, I'll remember it. Don't worry about it. Just go to sleep. Yeah.
Yes.
I never remember it in the morning. Never.
Yeah.
I have probably come up with brilliant inventions in the middle of the night and I didn't write them down. And now someone else has done it.
I need to know more about what does luxury portraits mean? Tell us more about what is it that you do?
Yeah. So to me, when I think of luxury portraits or just luxury anything, there's a lot of high touch experiences, meaning like you're guided through an entire process. Like think about if you ever walk into like a luxury clothing boutique or a handbag store or shoes, someone's already there to greet you. They're helping you out. They've got a glass of water. If you're very high end, they've got champagne for you. So for me, it's really about taking the homework off my clients' plates. And a lot of it is also just helping ease kind of the anxiety that goes into doing a photo shoot, the planning aspect, just the self-doubt that comes in, the overwhelm that comes in. And so multiple touch points, guiding them all the way through. And then I think this is where a lot of people fall off, the follow through, like at the end. Now the photos have been delivered. How else can I help them? Do they need help learning how to like market their photos? Do they need suggestions on what to do with it on social media? I talk about my clients all the time. So I like to feature them on my Instagram lives or on my Facebook. And anytime that there's a win, I want to celebrate with them and shout it out to the world.
So you own a studio. Your studio then also helps them, just so I understand, helps them launch where to go with their product from there. You're giving them like coaching advice on, you said
I would
social media,
say
you said some
very
other stuff.
casual coaching. So I have different clients, right? So some people are like very experienced. They've been in business for a long time. They know what to do with their images. They're very active on social media. Some people are coming in and they've kind of dipped their toe in the social media waters and they're kind of inconsistent. They've been visible and they haven't been visible. And they get these beautiful images that they love and they don't know what to do with them. Or they only think about one way of using them. Like, I can use it for my LinkedIn profile. But there's so many other ways that they can use that. And so, it may be one-on-one education casually, but I also talk about it in my Facebook group. I talk about it on my social media and just try to provide another layer of service that helps them move along with their business.
All right, folks, those of you who listen to the show long enough know that sometimes Matt just goes off on a tangent, hijacks the show for his own benefit, for something that's helping him in his own house, in his own business. Like, ooh, I got a cool guest today, a shiny new toy. Matt needs help. What can I do with this new toy?
Yes.
So here's my new pain point, Fizzah. So first child, we go off and have all these great shots done, photos of our kid, all these cool things, dressed up as Marty McFly, Indiana Jones. And we went all out. But what we also did was we put him on those like fun canvases where you like hang them up all over your house. And so we had like an 80s montage of like Goonies, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. He's 8 now. And we have all these massive canvases. What do you do and how do you figure out what to do with these huge canvases of portraits once your kids are older and you have nowhere to put them in your house?
One is you can give them to the grandparents and the aunts and uncles because that makes for a great gift and then clears up space on your walls. The second answer is store them. But I think that's a good thought process when you're buying wall art is why you should always get an album. The other thing you could do too is, there's people that photograph artwork. They're like for museums or things like that. But there's other people who also just photograph artwork. You can have someone come in and professionally photograph, or you could figure out how to do it yourself, photograph those canvases so that you could put them in like a smaller album. So just in case you didn't have the digital, you can still have like another form of it.
Yeah, a past guest. She was then Scrap My Pics, which sounds like we're scrapping them, but she's now the photo archiver. She went through a branding change. Rachel Jenkins, we'll link her episode in the show notes. That's her business. That's what they do. You can either send it in. She also does it or has been working towards doing the same for small museums. And she does all sorts of things, including some families don't just have photos, but then they have like Civil War letters, and imagine like how she puts that together. And I now have heard that there is, possible sponsor for the show, Legacy Box, I think it's called, that you can put in so many things and send it off and digitize it. My fear is the sending it off. Like, I don't know if I can trust Amazon or DHL or UPS. Or can I have like a trusted courier that like looks like Secret Service?
Yeah. I have the
He's
same
got the
issue.
earpiece on. He's got a handcuff and a briefcase to pick up your stuff and everything. Exactly.
You got me. Yes.
So let me ask you this, where the law kind of combines with these portraits. We did a live bunny shoot, Alice in Wonderland / Easter, and we got Ethan all dressed up as the Mad Hatter with a live bunny. It was awesome.
Nice.
But it was one of these ones where like you pay for the print from this professional photographer. Here I am an attorney. I'm like, I'm an idiot. From now on, I don't even talk to a photographer unless I'm getting licensed in perpetuity. I get it in writing every single time. I'm like, I will never, ever suffer from the malfeasance of a dictator of a photographer who just rips off my stuff and makes me come back to them over and over and over when I already paid for it the first time.
Yet
So I
he would have
learned my
written that
lesson.
exact legalese for you to stand in front of customers and say, no, you don't get it. That's what
I
he's
know.
written for you as your attorney. He
That
would
is
have done it.
true. That
But
is
then he
true.
also would have advised if an attorney walks up and says, let me read the fine print, you just give them all of it to get them out the door. That's what he would.
So I learned the lesson the first time. That's why I had those digital copies. Is that a common thing where some photographers like to hold on to those licenses so they keep you coming?
So there's a difference between copyright and licensing, and it depends on personal use versus commercial use.
Right.
Commercial use is like you're selling it or using it to make money somehow, and not like inadvertently, like you're using it in your business. Like you are directly making money from those photos. Or I guess maybe it could be, because if you think about like musicians, they have to license the images commercially. Anyway, I primarily do personal. And so my clients do get a print release. I still own the copyright. I will never let go of my copyright because I'm the creator of those images. But they have a license to print and use it in any personal form that they want. So I think most photographers do that. If they don't give you the print rights, they at least give you like these social media files with or without watermark. But if they give you high res images, then yeah, they're going to give you a print release, which by the way, most labs don't even check, which is really annoying. But I mean, you're giving them the release so that they can print it and enjoy it however else they want.
You know who does check, at least back in 2008, 2009? Walmart checks.
Walgreens checks.
Well, that makes me
Walmart
happy
checks.
because
So-
although I really hate that you guys are printing it there, so don't do that. I have a funny story where I had a maternity client and she was telling me the story of her grandmother. She was looking at a photo on her phone of like the family or something like that. And she ordered the print from her phone. She got printed the screenshot. So you could see the time in the corner. And it was, she got it printed as a canvas. It's on their wall.
This is awesome story. This is this makes.
Okay,
All right.
so let's get back to it. What led you to entrepreneurship? Was there a specific moment, an event, or an experience, something that you knew that this would be your life's work?
I was always that kid that never had an answer to what do you want to be when you grow up. And it took me a little while to figure out what I wanted. And I realized somewhere between college and my first full-time job, like my brain naturally kept coming up with business ideas. Not all of them were viable. I think I craved that independence. I craved wanting to do something that I owned, that I put out into the world. And it took me a little while to get there. Like I had a full-time job for about 8 years, but that dream was there the entire time. My journals are full of like how I'm going to get there, my planning, how it's going to look, which now apparently is really cool and trendy to be like future journaling, but I didn't know I was doing it at the time.
And so was there anyone in your life that modeled entrepreneurship for you? Anything that you saw that inspired you?
No, actually the opposite. So I'll give you a two-part answer. Coming from an immigrant family, I saw my parents working really, really hard. I saw my mom at some point working 3 jobs just to carry the family. And for me, I felt like I didn't want to be stuck in a job. I wanted to create my own future. I felt like entrepreneurship has endless possibilities. And I just wanted to move myself and my family out of like that money gap. And then also just having something that I can control, you know, when the economy goes up or down, like I still have control over where I go with it. The second answer is Paul Mitchell. I used to talk
Oh,
about Paul Mitchell all the time. Joan Rivers used to have this thing where she used to talk about like how people build their business. And at some point, he was like nearly homeless. He was living out of his car and blah, blah, blah. And he built this incredible brand. And then they talked about like how the branding is black and white because he didn't have the money to do like color stuff. So there's stuff like that. I remember, I think those were clues that I want to be an entrepreneur. I'd be at dinner parties, like, let me tell you guys about Paul Mitchell. Yes, yes.
oh my gosh.
I remember I was at one and somebody was just like, how long are we going to talk about Paul Mitchell? I was like, but I'm almost done. Let me tell you.
Let me just tell you, when you don't know about he
I
made
didn't
it.
understand why nobody else was like so hyped. I was like, do you not realize how incredible that is?
So you talked a bit about perfectionism before coming on the show. Can you talk us through a little bit of how perfectionism has shown up in your life, maybe early on, and then maybe even in your business?
Yeah, so actually, I don't think I had perfectionist issues until I became a mom. Like when I look back, I was very laid back. Things came easy, right? Like I could write my paper the night before. Actually, I preferred writing the papers the night before because I was like, I do well under pressure. But somewhere along the way, after becoming a mom, I think the responsibilities hit me a little hard. I didn't even realize I was doing this whole perfectionist thing. My therapist was like, by the way, you've got some perfectionist issues. And I'm so imperfect. And she's like, yeah, but you try so hard to be perfect. And then we talked about like, is that helpful or is that detrimental? And then we talked about how it would be in terms of modeling for my kids, like always being perfect and always having this facade. And then from there, I translated it into a lot of my work stuff and how it was really holding me back. Like I had ideas or I had concepts and I was working on things, but I was forever working on them and tweaking them and tweaking them and tweaking them. And it was never ready to go. And what I found was some of it was fear. It's like that fear of letting something out in the world. What if it fails? What if it doesn't do well? What if someone finds a mistake? But I mean, over time, I think working through that, I've learned to kind of let go of some of it. I still have to talk myself through it. I have to talk about how it is just a fear thing. And the only thing I've ever found to get through fear is literally do the thing you're afraid of.
Yep.
It makes no sense,
Yep.
but that's the only thing that resolves it.
What's an example? You said kept tweaking it. What's happening that you are trying to get perfect?
Lighting was one of them. I was really smart in that I decided to take 2 beginner classes at the same time, whereas one was a prerequisite to the other. But I was in a rush.
Right.
I was older than most of the kids in the community college. I was like, I don't have time for this. I got to get through multiple classes at once. And so I didn't have the basics before I went into the second course, which was lighting. At the time, it was so complicated because this was a professor that came from like classic portraiture and lighting. And they were like, key lights and ratios. And I was just so overwhelmed, like I would shut down. And so I never wanted to do anything with lighting. So I rented out the light kit from the college and I took it home and I practiced. But I still never used it on any shoots because I just was nervous that I couldn't do it until at some point I just realized like it's just sitting there. Like if I don't put it to use, like what good is it to learn? So I had to just push it out.
I love it. I love it.
Was there anything valuable that you found by trying to do kind of beginner and intermediate at the same time?
Yeah, I think I could see parallels, right? So it's kind of like you're learning something and you're kind of seeing where you need to be in the next class. It's like this weird double vision of like, I know I'm learning this. I see how it's going to be applied already because I'm already kind of learning it in the next class as well. So I'm learning like 2 things at the same time and I can see why they're connected. And I'm a why girl. Like I need to know why things happen. I've always been that since I was a kid. So I think knowing like why I'm doing this, what's the purpose of this, helps me learn faster, helps me learn better as well.
What are you, Nicole? Are you a why, what, a who, or a how?
Definitely a how.
Oh yeah, I think I'm a how.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me how to do it. I'll probably find another way to streamline it.
Yes.
Cut some time off here or there, or hopefully, of course, make it better, hit the number faster. But yeah, tell me how and get out of my way. Mhm.
Yeah,
I
I'm a
think you
what.
also have a why though, because you don't want to
Okay.
do things that don't make sense. Like,
Yeah.
why would we do that? We don't need to do that.
I'm a what person. What are we doing? What are we doing next?
Mm.
What are we doing now? What am I not doing that I should be doing right now? Because I'm stuck doing the thing I said I shouldn't be doing. So
You're an action taker, basically.
oh, wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, too many actions at once probably is what Nicole
Yeah.
thinks.
Where I'm
But-
like, wait, how are you going to do the 74 things you just said in the next hour?
Oh my God. And then if I was in there, I'd be like, but why? Why?
Yeah,
this,
exactly.
guys?
Yeah. You know what, folks, right
Yeah.
now, this is showing you organizational management. If you have a
Yeah.
team, you should be looking at that exact model we just talked about.
Yeah.
If you have that why person like Fizzah on your team, recognize you just barking out what we're doing next, like what I would probably do, is probably not going to resonate with that person on your team if she's a
Yeah.
why person.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And like the key on when you bring in each person, right? Like you might
Right.
say all the what, and I'll be like, okay, here's how we're going to actually get that done. And then still bring in what I would consider some of those more detailed. Okay, but why are we doing this? And is it actually going to get us to the goal, or are we just doing it because it was said? Because someone said it. I'm always trying to include other people who are more detail oriented than I am, but yet my team will be like, you're quote keen on details. That's like a quote from one of my team members. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I'm going to miss it. So I make sure like you next to me are even more detailed, and we'll ask the questions like why. Like, is this coming back to revenue, Nicole? That's a good question. Let's talk about that for a second, because I was just going. Right.
I want to go back to what you said about that idea of learning, like, you're in the intermediate, but you're also in the beginners. I think a lot of us like that immersive type of education as well as immersive experiences. I'm sure it's the same thing probably when it comes to working with clients and doing photo shoots. It's one thing to say, I'm just going to go shoot one shot real quick to get one image perfect for my website versus probably sitting down and having an actual branding marketing message of all the shots you need, what needs to happen.
Right.
Can you tell me more about that kind of experience, Fizzah?
Yeah, you probably ask people why do they want the shots. I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, give them new reasons why. Mhm.
I ask a lot of questions. Yeah. So it is. I love that you said experience, because I think the other element of a luxury portrait experience or luxury branding experience is the entire experience. When we're going through the planning process, this isn't just me saying like, okay, so we're going to use this light, we're going to do this. I want to know, okay, what is your brand? And a lot of times people know their brand, but on the surface, and you really need to kind of dig deeper. Like, who are you serving? What is your why behind why you do what you do? Like, if you're a luxury realtor, like, why do you do it beyond making money? Like, what is it? Is there a deeper reason? And maybe you're helping first-time home buyers. What is that? There's a story there. So those are the things that we have to pull out. And then that's how we create like the montage of images that you're talking about, so that they can easily attach it to that message, so that they're not just posting up a pretty picture and saying, hey, I'm a great realtor. It's like, hey, I love helping first-time home buyers because I remember when I bought my first home and blah, 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 blah. So I think that's a big part of it as well.
Wait a second, Fizzah, you're telling me that I shouldn't just go get that free or $25 headshot from the chamber just because it's free or $25 and use that on all of my branding for every headshot that I have? You're telling me that it might have an impact on my branding and marketing?
Are you saying that
Maybe.
photos do tell a story?
Yeah, wait a
Tell a
second.
better
I'm like,
story?
I sit there and I go, wow, everyone's got the same like greenish, bluish 1980s backdrop when we went to school. Oh, they all
must work together.
They almost work together. Exactly.
You know what? I always tell my clients, and I remember doing a presentation for this back when I was in California, but marketing is like dating. I mean, if you think about it, like there's this getting to know you period. And now there's apps. Like when I met my husband, it was online, but it was not an app. But I didn't even consider anybody that didn't have any photos up. Then there's the second part, right? Like, okay, now they have photos up. Are they good photos? Or is it like, are you standing in front of a car that's not really yours and I can tell? Or, like that's the story you're telling me. Is it authentic? Or did you
a girl with her face blurred out? I hear that.
Yes. Or like you had your arm around someone, but then you cropped the photo. And now we're like in even more of a visual world. People want that personal connection. If you don't even just have photos up and they don't feel authentic to you, they don't tell a story about you, people are not going to connect.
Why don't you tell me a story about a client that experienced this exact situation and how did it elevate their brand?
The person that immediately jumped to mind, ultimately it did help her brand, but I'll tell you what I think she got out of it more than that. This was within my first year or two of business. She came in for headshots and it was easily the best photo she's ever had. She said it, I knew it. And we were part of a larger networking group. And for some reason, it was a little bit of an emotional experience for her. Usually not so much with headshots. People are like, okay, great headshots. And they might see themselves differently, but it was like something emotional was going on. So I see her at the next networking meeting and she comes up and it's been about a week and she's like, I put this up on my LinkedIn. I have people that I haven't talked to in years reaching out and connecting with me. And what it did for her, sure, it elevated her brand. But what it did is it gave her a different level of confidence. She was walking differently. She was carrying herself differently. Her chin was up. She just had a different manner about her. And you could feel it. Like if you were anywhere around her, you could feel that about her. Whereas before, I felt like she really didn't carry herself that way. So I feel like that in itself is going to carry her through so many different situations, including in her business.
Mm, nice.
That's good. What does she do for a living? Do you
She
recall?
was an insurance agent.
In sales, lots of sales. So tell me about a time that you found yourself distracted and either you needed some resources or you needed something different in order to achieve the goals that you still have set for yourself. I know you have some big goals.
Oh, I have huge goals. I don't know if I'm going in the right direction with this, but I would say maybe not so much a distraction as an obstacle, like a limiting obstacle. And I felt like a lot of it went back to self-worth and self-value. For a lot of people, we label it imposter syndrome, but I think it even goes deeper than that. I think when you start working for yourself and you start serving a certain level of clientele, you're human. You start having doubts about like, can I do this? Who am I to do this? Can I provide this level of service? Am I providing this level of service? Am I providing value? And those are surface questions, but underneath it all, I think there was a lot of like self-value. I feel like somewhere in the mix, I was telling my clients that they are valuable and that they are worthy. And at the same time, I was having to work through those same things myself. So
Mm.
it's great because I can tell you as it is, but also I'm working through it right next to you.
Yeah,
So
you're a
yeah.
practitioner of it as well.
Earlier you were talking about like the shift or what does it bring to people? And we keep coming back to the experience. And I think having like those deeper conversations, because I'm not afraid to have those deeper conversations, like if somebody has body image issues, if somebody has, gone through trauma in their life or is going through something. Like I had a client last year that was going to have a double mastectomy and we can't really not talk about that. You can pretend it doesn't exist, but what good does that do that person or you? I am very comfortable being vulnerable one-on-one or like in a small group. So the things that I'm learning that I'm now talking to my people about are things that I'm working on is being able to be vulnerable like that in larger settings, like out in social media where like anyone in the world can watch you. Like I just had a call actually this weekend. There's a client that had one session through like a charitable donation or whatever. And she hadn't booked for 2 years. Stuff had happened, COVID. Then she got diagnosed with cancer. And she called me up and she's like, I know it's been 2 years, but I really want to book now. And that's because she's terminal. And like we had a deep heart to heart conversation. We had to talk about like, what does that mean to her family? How are we going to make this photo session like it's so important? Like, how do we do that? So I think that's another part of it is like being able to connect on a human level.
I'm a little bit blown away. I mean, that's such a huge statement to even say, but do people go get a photo session because they know their end is coming?
So I've had a couple inquiries say, I want to get my funeral photo.
Wow.
But that's not common for me. But I have had clients that are like a little later in life, maybe in their 70s. They have still ways to go. They're not terminal. I think the thought process there is I haven't had a photo done since maybe I got married or like the last time was when my kids were little and I don't have a solo photo. And now maybe they're attending funerals for people that they know. And they're
Mhm.
realizing it's not just about their funeral photo, but it's like, what am I leaving behind? I'm leaving
Yeah.
behind my legacy, but what am I leaving behind in terms of photos?
What I was processing there is how do I want to be remembered?
Yeah.
Like what is that moment in time that someone could snap in a portrait of how I want to be remembered? And that carries back to, I'm thinking, kings and queens having massive paintings done of them. It's amazing that you had that opportunity to connect with your clients, to be able to do those kinds of things.
And also, like, how do you want to be remembered? But in this case, she wants to leave behind the photos of her with her family. Like, it's
Mhm.
family photos. We all have that time in our lives to sit there and love on the people that we love. But we're also busy. And I think stuff like that brings things into sharp focus. And so the session itself is also a way to have that really intimate time together, to really just bond and just be together. There's nothing else going on.
Mhm.
Wow.
Oh, I love it. I do always look at pictures when they're chosen for a funeral. And I
Mhm.
always wonder, those that you could tell have planned every letter of their services. But then I always think about that photo, like when sometimes it's a young person, especially like, oh,
Mhm.
they didn't know when they posed for that photo. And to hear that you're able to be that space for someone is so powerful when we think about photographers in our lives. I mean, Matt is talking about how he's posed his kid for the Goonies canvas on his walls. And to think that someone else is on the other side potentially of that photographer's door, just trying to be remembered and what their legacy is. I think it's so beautiful and understated on what you all do all the time. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about how you've grown your business in the past couple of years. What has been the unlock for you? What has been helpful in the past couple of years to make a difference?
So I'm a researcher type girl, the why, but I also need to know how things work. And so I am always on the hunt. That can be good or bad. I go down rabbit holes quite often, but I'm really picky then after I do that research, like what am I actually going to focus on? I leaned really heavily my first and second year into networking. And some of my favorite resources were, now I'm trying to remember the book, Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
How to win
Yeah.
friends. And then
How to win
Yeah.
friends.
How to win friends.
Yeah. So networking was a big one. I feel like obviously meeting you, I know you're not asking me to pitch you, but I'm going to say it anyways. I feel like meeting you was a game changer for me because it took a lot of my marketing off my plate and systemized it. And it's really effective, sometimes too effective, where I'm overwhelmed with leads. But having that consistency allows me to focus in other areas like networking, like figuring out how to improve my craft, etc.
so you said how that you're a researcher and you're a why girl. And that really is the definition of a smart cookie. Someone who's tried to figure it out on their own is actually my favorite people to work with because they've tried, right? Like they've made this effort and realized there's a whole lot to it. It's really hard to work with someone who's never tried. I've tried that too. And when they don't get it, they don't understand, like, why can't I just have 10,000
Yeah.
sales today? Social media is supposed to be easy. Well, if it was easy, everybody
Right.
would do it. What does it feel like before finding the resources that work for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hamster wheel. Like, let's just talk about Facebook ads. Took some low level courses, tried a few things out, and it kind of worked. But then, Facebook is also finicky. So something stopped working, or like there was that Apple update that happened, threw everything off. And it would take hours of my time just trying to problem solve that. Even then, it's like I could kind of tell it was effective sometimes. Like leads were coming in, but were they the right leads? And was I putting the right messaging out there? What was the best way? So I feel like it helped to know the bones of it, right? But I couldn't flesh it out myself. Or if I wanted to, I could, but it would take like a lot more time, a lot more courses. And I had to stop and say, like, is that the best use of my time? And I think every entrepreneur needs to do that because we can all go down different rabbit holes. And is that the best use of your time for your business? So I would rather have put my money and my time into you, and you're the expert, and you got me set up. Those ads are still running. I mean, it's been 2 years now, right? And they're still effective. I literally have mentioned your name so many times, and it blows my mind because people are probably going to spend the same amount of money on their ad within, I don't know, a year or two. And they could have just been set up for ads with you. And there's 2 people I can think of that constantly reach out to me because to them, I know enough about Facebook ads. I'm like, I don't know why it's not working. Why are my leads about it? I don't know. Get Nicole. Get Nicole.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I can tell people on a call, like, you should shut that off right now. Like, you're just giving Mark Zuckerberg money.
It's just taken a lot of mental work out of it so I can use that for other things.
I love that. I love it because I've been there too, right? We can go to YouTube University.
Mhm.
At the end of it, we're still guessing. We're
Yeah.
still,
Yes.
we're still phoning a friend. We're still, throw the dry spaghetti at the wall. Oh, it still didn't stick. Okay, let's try to moisten it. Okay,
Yeah.
that still didn't work. And you try and you try. And I think it's such a good, important reminder when I realized it that all of us entrepreneurs, we're trying to do so many things, but there are a few key things, like you said, to clear up mental space. We can, not have to worry about guessing in our sales, guessing in marketing, guessing in automation. I always want people to automate it where they can. So,
Fizzah, just so you know, I feel personally attacked with what's going on. I wake up in the morning throwing stuff at the wall. I don't even know what's sticking. But I think what's important there is talking about what you just said, which is clearing up the mental space. There's only so many hours in the day,
Mhm.
and there's only so much time and space up there between the 2 ears that we can give to our business, give to our clients. And if we're so preoccupied in some of these things that we try to go hack out on YouTube, we try to figure out on our own, we try to figure out how to run those ads, whatever it is, we end up running out of time and or energy, or we're doing a disservice. Talk about perfectionism. We're doing a disservice to our clients because now we're sidetracked and we are distracted by, well, this is great. This client came from this Facebook ad, but how do I make it even better? You're thinking that the entire time when you're meeting with that
Right.
client then.
Yeah, clearing up that mental space and like leaning into your zone of genius, right? Like,
Mhm.
where are you best? I'm best when I'm interacting with my clients, helping them plan their shoot and actually delivering on that. Everything else, I need to slowly outsource. And I think it's hard for entrepreneurs to let go of things, but I think it really lets you just be in your zone of genius. That's the best. You're your best when you're working on that.
Oh, I love it. Funny how we started this conversation about clearing up space, but still holding on to the right things.
That is kind of funny because it
was
is full
fun.
circle.
So tell me, what is one of the key lessons you've learned as an entrepreneur? Maybe it's something you say again and again.
I think it goes back to what we were talking about. So it's going to be progress over perfection, messy action.
Messy
Mhm.
action.
I
Okay,
love
good.
it. I love it.
How would you define your entrepreneurial success?
Financial freedom, time freedom. That's it. That's all it comes to for me.
2 ingredients, mix generously.
Yes.
I love it.
Nice.
Is there a link? I think you have something that we're going to add in our show notes that you want people to know about and where you like to hang out online.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time on Instagram, but lately I've been on TikTok more. So you could find me there. And I have a really awesome headshot styling guide. Whether you book with me or not, it gives you some awesome tips on how to prepare for your session and what kinds of things to consider when you're picking out your wardrobe.
Nice.
Fizzah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much. For having me. It
Yeah.
was so much fun.
Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in.
Matt, that was so much fun with Fizzah. I even loved the after the call that probably won't even make any of the edits. I just had so much fun seeing the
Yes.
two of you chat as well. It was a lot of fun for me.
It was a lot of fun.
One of my biggest takeaways, I think, happened with just spontaneity and happenstance in the show. And you brought it up. It was about people, all of us are driven by either what, why, how, and who, and our
Mhm.
personalities and how we saw the 3 differences in each other right away. And I just thought it was really, really powerful in how she shared she is a why and how that serves her customers in their business, how you are a what, we're doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, but how are we going to do it all? I really thought that was powerful and a little bit insight on personality. That was
No,
fascinating.
it was totally great because she started going down this path of why. And then she alluded to some great stories about how she connects with her clients, whether it's a headshot or a legacy photo. There's a moment in time that someone's trying to capture. And what is that purpose? The why. She says she does this interview process. She figures that out. It just goes to show why she's wired that way, so to speak, pun intended, and how it has an impact in her business.
Yeah, I thought that was really powerful, really, really special. Love that it came up. What do you got?
Well, for me, it totally was the free up the headspace. I loved how she talked about how she tried so many different things. She even talked about where she was at before, what she did. She might have spent some money, take some classes, some beginner things, and it was not getting, there was no traction. Nothing was actually happening. But then the minute she realized, hey, I can outsource this, I can bring somebody else on who's really good at this, them being you, by the way, like in this situation, it was fantastic for her because what did it do? It freed up the headspace. It freed up the time when she wanted to be present with her clients. It allowed her, as she kept referencing, to work in her zone of genius rather than having to learn Facebook ads, for instance.
Yes, yes. I don't think I have anything to add there. I would say, though, that it's amazing when there's something that we feel we have to learn, the amount of time we invest in it, sometimes the amount of money that we might pour into it as well. And sometimes we feel like compelled that we have to understand it. I get that. I totally get that. But I also think that, gosh, if there is an easier, smarter, faster way, that is the call of the entrepreneur, right? That's our job, is to make sure we're finding it. And so I love that she shared that
Yeah.
with us, which brings me to a bit about imposter syndrome, she called it. She talked about self-worth and how that she is always really coaching and encouraging her clients on that they are worthy of this experience with her, worthy of the deliverables of the albums or the digital prints, whatever she's creating for them. And yet she's going through it right alongside of them. And she may not even reveal that to them right away. What better person could somebody have on their side than someone that's like, I'm still working through it too. And here's how I'm going to prove it to you that you're worth it. I thought that was really interesting that sometimes the practitioner like Fizzah doesn't even realize what an asset that is to their business.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it starts way earlier. You always talk about this when it comes to marketing, even in building out your marketing plans. Who's your ideal customer? Look in the mirrors, things you're going through, things that's happening to you. Just so you know, I listen.
You do.
But this starts all the way back in the very beginning of the marketing. What's your messaging to your client? Who are you actually talking to? So thank you, because apparently it carries throughout your entire business, that is, Nicole.
It does. Oh my gosh. You're leaving me speechless, which is pretty hard for the podcaster. But yeah, you nailed all the points. And that's pretty special because that's the point, right? If we
Yep.
can talk to our ideal, most perfect customer, and especially if they're a whole lot like us, we're going to get it right every single time. So I love it. I love that's you showing up for us. Well, folks, you know what we always say. If you're listening,
Go get lunch. I'm sorry. No.
I like it.
What do we always say? Oh, keep listening. Got distracted. See? This is funny.
Matt owes Nicole tacos. I think it might have to be our new shtick. And if you were listening, folks.
Nicole owes Matt a luxury portfolio birthday with what's her name over there. That's all.
Yes.
Exactly.